When I was young, I was fortunate that my grandmother lived right on the river front. And so I spent a lot of my time down on the shore and watching all of these different vessels. We're going back a long time because I was probably just between 5 and 10 at the time. And the thing I remembered first of all was the tugs. I knew all the names of the tugs. Can't remember them now, but I did at the time. And what I also remembered was all of the ships that I saw were coal carriers. We had the fillers on the various jetties, both sides of the river, and it was continuous. But the thing that I remember most was New Year's Eve. And at 12 o'clock, all of the vessels would sound the horns. Now, it doesn't sound a great thing, except I was just a little lad, fast asleep at that time, when this almighty blaring came up, 20, 30, maybe more vessels. And that's the longest memory I've got of ships on the river. We'll start with my grandfather. My grandfather, he worked on the Tyne for a very short time. I didn't know too much, but he moved then and worked in Port of Blythe on shipbuilding. There was shipbuilding as well when I was very young, but his time was before my time in the shipyard, and there was a recession which forced him to take some decisions, and his decision was to up sticks, and he moved to the Isle of Wight with his whole family. It took a little twist in that my father joined the Merchant Navy, and he was in the Merchant Navy during the war years, and he came back up to Blythe and he met my mother. He then settled down in Blythe, but he began to work. First of all, he spent a year in the Blythe Shipyard, and then he moved to Smith's Ship Repair Yard in North Shields on the Tyne. And he spent all of his working life, right up till 65, in Smith's Repair Yard. He left as a general foreman. He was a pretty good all-rounder as far as the engines were concerned, and he worked on every sort of vessel that you could possibly think of. It's a good question. It's a difficult question, particularly as I've been in the industry now 40 plus years. But what I would say, the one thing that sticks out for me was on a trip that I did in the 90s to Korea. And I went with a British delegation, and we went onto the Royal Yacht Britannia, and it was its last voyage. The government were trying to decide, should they scuttle it, should they sink it at sea, or should they preserve it? As we know, they preserved it, but the part I remember was we were on board and I was talking to the ship doctor, and he kindly showed me everywhere on the vessel. He showed me where Charles and Diana had their honeymoon room, which was quite palatial, and we then went back up on deck for a drink, recognising there were a lot of us there. And unbeknown to us, the British Navy had their band on the dockside playing military music. And the thing I remember was the hair on the back of my neck stood up. Absolutely phenomenal trip.
So yeah, I set the company up in 2008 during the major global recession. It had just started off, and I got a lot of comments in the form of, "You're absolutely crazy to be setting up at this time. There's no money going around. You'll not make it," and all this sort of negative comments. But I had it clear in my mind. I had a plan for many years of what I wanted to do. So it felt the right time for me, even though everything around us was kind of having a negative impact, including the maritime industry at the time. I'd worked at a company called Maritime previously, where I'd learnt lots of skills, and I also ran the department for the blinds at the business and could see the potential that it offered. And I left that business for a year doing something completely different. So I left the industry for a year and I hated it. I didn't want to be away from the maritime sector. I saw that the blinds business had been slightly neglected while I'd been out of the system for a year. So I decided to take that from Martech Marine and to set it up as my own business, because I could see the potential. So that's what I did. Yeah, so I went to university and I'd always been very creative all the way through my teens, and I loved drawing. I loved anything to do with graphic design, and I decided that was the course that I wanted to take when I went to university. So I went to the University of Teesside, some of the best years of my life, and I did graphic design. However, I had a brilliant time and I met amazing people during that time in Teesside, but I decided at the end of my course that graphic design wasn't really what I was looking to do. I enjoyed it, don't get me wrong, but it was just, it didn't quite fit with what I was wanting to do. So I kind of fell into the maritime industry, following the footsteps of my father. And I wasn't sure at first that was the way that I wanted to go, but then once I'd been working in the industry for a year, I absolutely loved it and I wouldn't go anywhere else. However, in my time over the last 20 years of my working life, I've used my skills from my graphic design on multiple occasions. It's allowed me to understand lots of stuff to do with print, design, how to do layout and everything that you would want. So when I'm working with graphic designers here at Solarglide in my current business, I know what I'm talking about and I know what I like as well. Well, one of the main reasons that I wanted Solarglide to be based in the Northeast was because it's my region that I was born in, same as my father, and what better place to set up than the place that you're familiar with. So that was one of the main reasons. The other reason was the shipbuilding heritage that the region's got. I'm really proud of the Northeast and I'm really proud that I'm from this region. So I always felt that I was going to stick to the places that I loved so much, and that's why I decided to set up in the Northeast. The other thing was that the Northeast has been renowned over the years for being a huge exporter in the UK, and we've been really, really successful. It's taken a little bit of a hit during Brexit and the pandemic, but I'm sure that we'll come back out fighting again. But yeah, Northeast, the main reasons again would be the people. We've got a fantastic team. Everybody is super proud of the region, and we just want to make things successful and make the area even better than it already is.
Yeah, I'll answer that one for you. The biggest problem with any really large industry in the UK was that the wheels turned very, very slowly, and the British government weren't very supportive. Whereas you look at somewhere like Korea, and I pick them as a prime example, the Korean government supported financially all of the shipbuilding industries out there. So the UK as an island became very expensive. Even though we were the best at the time, it became too expensive for it to work. And of course the Thatcher government depleted not just the shipping industry, they depleted lots and lots of industries. And I don't particularly want to go into that side of it, but we had some unbelievable experience here, and it was very sad that to watch on the day that they closed Swan Hunter's main yard in North Shields.
Well, I wasn't, I'm too young to remember what it was like with all the ships on the Tyne, and I'm kind of gutted a little bit that I wasn't able to see that for myself. But I do like to look through a lot of the archives of photographs of years gone by, and it looked really impressive. I mean, there's a famous picture of a large tanker at the end of one of the streets in Newcastle, and it's just an incredible image, very striking. I think it's a shame that shipbuilding declined as it did. There were multiple reasons, as my father mentioned, as to why that happened. I think probably the government has some regrets that they let it go to the extent that it did. Currently there are still a lot of shipyards in the UK, but they're actually smaller shipyards. They're building fishing vessels, they're doing workboats, they're doing patrol boats, that sort of thing. But I think that with what's going on in the world at the moment, I think shipbuilding is becoming more to the forefront. I think it's becoming, I think the government's starting to realise that we need to have our own shipbuilding in our country to support not only our military, but our trade and our export. And I think that the tide is starting to turn with that. And I think that the government announced recently in the last month that there was a new initiative to revive shipbuilding. They were putting billions of pounds into doing that. Whether or not that takes off and becomes something that grows and grows is to be seen, but it's pretty exciting. Not because we're heavily involved in the maritime sector, just because it would be nice to see that industry back, creating lots of jobs for lots of the regions. My only concern is that a lot of the skills that we used to have been lost along the way, which is a shame. Okay, so people often say you should never work with friends and family, and over the years I've kind of learnt that mistake myself with various people. So I do agree with that statement in some context, but I've worked with my dad now for 20 plus years. Don't get me wrong, it hasn't been smooth sailing all the time, but I would say 95% of the time we get along great. We don't tend to take anything to heart if we disagree on things, and it's quite nice that you can kind of air your own opinion if you're not feeling happy about something, without feeling that you're not going to speak to that person for a couple of weeks. But we got on great, we always have. It works really, really well. I wouldn't have it any other way.
From my point of view, Paul and I have always been close, and when he asked me to help him, I was quite happy to do that. I think the best way to describe us is that we complement each other. We've got different skill sets and we utilise them to the max.
So when I first set the business up, we were heavily involved in the commercial side, and that was great, but I always had my aspirations were to work with the biggest cruise companies in the world. And I'm pleased to say, 12, 13 years down the line that we are actually in that position. So I've kind of got to my position of my dreams, that I'm working with the likes of Carnival Cruises, Royal Caribbean and all them guys, and it's a great industry and a nice family unit with everyone working together and familiar faces, and everybody knows everybody, and it's great. The problem is that we get involved in some really big outfitting jobs, working alongside a lot of the outfitters, and that business has been great for us over the years, but the pandemic has kind of slowed everything up. The cruise industry in particular took a big hit. It still continues to take that hit at the moment as things start to recover, but it's affected all aspects of the supply chain. So the the cruise industry relies on hundreds and hundreds of suppliers, us being one of them. And when things aren't good, obviously they're not buying, and if there's no voyages going out, then they're not making money. So it's a knock-on effect. So the last couple of years have been difficult in the sense that we're not doing the scale of projects that we did before. However, things have started to gradually improve over the last 6 months, which is great to see. And I've got no doubt that the whole industry is going to come back a lot stronger in the months ahead. So the future for us as a business is just to continue growing steadily. I love the fact that we're a family business and we're very personal in the business as well. It's like a mini family, and I don't kind of want to change that if I can help it. And the future is that we're just going to embrace design. I'm very creative, so is my team. My team are very creative in terms of ideas and the way that we work. And I want to focus on the future, so that's product development, that's looking at motorization, which is going to become key over the next couple of years, looking at better ways to manufacture, looking at better ways to improve the aesthetics of our products, and also make it easier for our customers to install our products as well. So yeah, lots of different things we can do to improve. Every company can improve, and we just continue to do it on a weekly basis. And I think the future is exciting now that we're coming out of the pandemic.
Paul's given you the bones of how the company's going to move forwards, and they're the products. My particular part, trying to drive the market, and we're succeeding by making sure that everything that we supply meets the current and future regulations. That's how we see ourselves being differentiated from other companies in the industry.